And welcome to the first tutorial for the Wonka Rules engine. This is going to be a brief overview where we showcase an example of everyday use. We won't drill down into anything too much because this is just an overview, and we definitely won't get into the Solidity stuff because that's just too much for this lesson. So, without further ado, we'll get to it. And first, you should have started your Ethereum node of choice, and also then deploy the contracts that are part of this project. You should see something similar to the following: some messages about transactions in your console, and you of course need to set this gas limit this high for now. That's just the price of this first iteration before it gets improved. And as long as you have that, we can proceed with the examples. So this, just starting out, if anyone has not read the README file, and doesn't know what the Wonka Rules engine is, the Wonka Rules engine is a piece of software that you can supply a rule tree to, which is a hierarchical set of rules that is going to perform executions on a set of data. And this set of data exists in the blockchain. And so while the rule tree is being executed in the engine, it will set values in the blockchain, it will get values from the blockchain, it will perform custom functionality that a user can define that exists only in the blockchain. It'll do all of this stuff, then create a result and provide it back to the caller. And then the rules report can be analyzed to see what exactly happened and if that's satisfactory. So in order to do all of that, the rules engine needs a lot of information. So the first one is it needs the rules. In this case, this defines a rule tree where it's going to examine things and invoke custom functionality. And these attributes are data points that are defined in a class that implements an interface like this one. And this defines attributes and tells whether they're numbers, they're strings, gives them even, you can define ranges of values, you can do all sorts of things in here, and it needs to know these before it can actually execute the rules. It also needs to know about where the blockchain contract or the engine contract is on the blockchain, and it needs to know other contracts that supply values that are needed for the attributes, and it needs to know places where a custom functionality is defined in the rule tree and where to find that actual function on the blockchain. And the last but not least, it needs to know about where to find the registry contract, which is a place that can be used as a lookup for users to find your rule tree that you've defined, and also a place to form collections of rule trees. So let's move on to the showcase. Now, in this example, we're going to look at the calculation of a VAT. Now, a VAT is a tax that is used throughout the world. And in this case, we're going to calculate one based on a sale. So in this part of the code, we are going to initialize our test harness, and this includes looking at all of those files that we had mentioned before. This would be the rules. This would be the information about where to find contracts on the blockchain. What it does in this section is it's just going to create all of the data structures needed before it eventually will serialize them to the blockchain. And in this one particular section, we're serializing the data domain. That has to be the first step to the contracts, especially the Wonka Rules Engine contract that exists on the Ethereum node. So once we've prepped all information and we've serialized the data domain, now we can show you the actual example. So as mentioned before, this is going to calculate a VAT based on a sale. A lot of the details are hidden because we are using a CQS design. So in this case, we're going to pretend that we have information about a sale. We have the EAN, we have the type of product, we have where it was sold, and we are going to set these values on the blockchain. Now, all this other information that I mentioned before, uh, the the custom functionality and where it can find contracts that can pull values, all of that was done in the background. So all the serialization, the prep work is done for you. All that information now exists in the blockchain. But now we're going to actually make use of it. So at this point, it's done all of the prep work, and it's getting ready. It's serialized the rule tree, and at this point, we're actually going to hit generate sales transaction. So this is actually going to go out to the blockchain with these new values, and it's going to execute the rule tree that we looked at beforehand, which is here. It's going to step through here, and eventually it is going to, once it's calculated it, assign the actual VAT amount here. So when we go back, we're going to execute this step, and we're going to generate the sale, and this is going to execute the rule tree on the blockchain. Takes a second, and we're done. And we're going to check to make sure that nothing bad happened. It looks like it's valid. And now we're going to this data structure here is actually behind the scenes being populated with the values that were a result of the rule tree being executed. And right now we're going to examine them, and as a result we do have the values we want. And then, just to show the registry functionality, we're going to create a set of data structures that are going to look up information about this rule tree, and then once again execute it. And let's make sure that we executed it correctly. We get those values once again. So this is just a brief example of what the WonkaEngine can do. It can do any number of things, but for now this is just a brief example, and in later tutorials we'll drill down and we'll actually look at what's happening behind the scenes. But that's it for now. Thank you for your attention, and hopefully you'll make use of this someday. Thank you.